Welcome everybody, it is Unstoppable Steletsy and I got you a nice Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition casted game for today. So, this one is going to be a 1 versus 1 supremacy. And before we get into that supremacy, let's check out the map real quick to see what these players are going to be going up against geographically. So the map here, at least from my Wars of Liberty context, would be called Florida. And the notable thing about Florida would be you got the swamp on the inland here. It's, just like the Bayou map. You can clearly build on this piece here, but you can't build in the marsh area, this moist area. But you can walk through it though, so it's not like you have to build like a boat to traverse this. Now you can just walk on top of this marsh, no problem. You just can't construct on it. As well as the ability to access the coastline on the other side of Florida. Yep, you can get whales, you can get fish, so it's a pretty good bountiful resource here. Also, this Ford Trading Post trade route is also a very nice grab if you can get it. So yeah, let's see how these players do on this map, shall we? So the first civ that I notice here is Japan. Japan in 1 versus 1 is a pretty interesting civ. They do really well defensively, yeah. They got a lot of nice little bonuses that helps them like turtle up. They're really good booming too, especially when they're using their special house, the shrine. That can either be built by the villagers or, yeah, they can even be built by the monks here. Yeah, the monks can build their shrines, their unique house, and what the shrine does is basically, you see these little gobblers here, these turkeys, these Thanksgiving dinners. Instead of eating animals, Japan basically just lures them to the shrines, and they increase the trickle that this building grants, right? As you see, the number of food it gathers per second increases, the more turkeys gather up to the shrine. Making basically the Japanese civ like a pescatarian civ, They can fish for fish on the water, but no other real source of protein other than that. And to compensate for that, they receive rickshaws that can be built into cherry orchards as their main source of early food income, and then later on they would have to switch over to the rice paddies for that. They can also gather from berry bushes as well, but not all maps have berry bushes, so maps without berry bushes will often yield more starting cherry orchard rickshaws to compensate for that. And as you can see right here, these cherry orchards have quite a lot of food, to make up for the lack of hunts. And because these cherry orchards can be placed next to your TC, that's what gives Japan their defensive reputation, They really don't have to worry ever about being raided, since they don't have to really venture out far beyond the garrison range of the TC ever. As for their opponent, though, the Russians over here, they like to play more aggressively. They're more into aggro. And what makes them pretty aggressive is they get this special barracks tower combination called the blockhouse, where they can train units, their infantry in blocks of different numbers respectively. For their skirmisher, the Unstoppable Steletsy Me, I can be trained in blocks of 10. You can also train recruits, a weaker version of the musketeer, in groups of, I believe, 5. And then they also get this polearm, the poruchik, which is a halberdier equivalent that's available an age earlier. A weaker version of the halberd that you can train in blocks of 4. And another interesting little perk you'll see here too is you can actually train your settlers in blocks of 3 instead of 1. And the cost of that block itself is slightly cheaper than the standard cost of 3 bills. Normally you would have to dish out about 300 food to get 3 settlers. Here, the block is only 270 food to match up with the theme of the Russian civ in general in terms of their infantry. See, just like, well, in particular for their infantry, you'll notice they are slightly weaker, but they are also cheaper to output. Yeah, to make up for that lack of stats, more or less. So, yeah, that's sort of how the Russian military works here. They're great at aggro not because they get the strongest units in the game, but rather they can spam out a lot of them in a pretty short amount of time. And as you'll see in a lot of decks, and this one shows it perfectly, they get two infantry training cards. You get the standard fencing school that has the 40% effect on infantry. Then they get a bonus one called the dueling school in age 1, which acts as a secondary fencing school. And when you combine that with the church technology standing army, your infantry will actually train instantly from the blockhouse. But that's not until Industrial Age, so you wouldn't really notice that early in the game. But something to keep in mind should the match go that far. Big question this match is going to be, can Russia upset the Japanese defenses and rip them open from the inside out? We'll see. Japan is actually going with the Torii Gate Wonder. Asians, as you know, age up with wonders instead of politicians. What the Torii Gate Wonder does is, for all the bounties that you get from things like building buildings, training units, killing units, you basically get more experience from those bounties than you normally would. So the more stuff you're really doing as Japan that would give you experience, you're going to gain more of that experience to feed back into the machine, basically, which leads to more shipments, which lets you do more things, and vice versa. So that's sort of why a lot of people who want to go more aggressively with Japan will go with the Torii Gate. And another neat thing about going with the initial Torii Gate age up is Japan is they give you a military rickshaw that you can turn into either a barracks or a stable. So it looks like Japan decided to go with the barracks here. And from this barracks, they can make a good variety of units: samurai, a swordsman with a splash attack, good against cav. They got their Ashigaru musketeers, good anti-cav. Then they get their Yumi archers, which is a good anti-heavy infantry / light cav unit. So good at defeating dragoons and musketeers. So they're going to go with the Ashigaru. It's standard for Japan to usually go with the Ashigaru unless they're dealing with the big massive heavy infantry usually. And these Ashigaru will be a really tough, sturdy unit to hold up against the Russian infantry, as well as any potential Cossack raids that might occur, with Cossacks being the hand cavalry that the Russians get. It's weaker than a Hussar, but it only costs like 1 population space, so you can have like double of them on the field at any given time, which is pretty insane, you know. Even with the lack of stats on the Cossack, the fact that you can mass them up so easily does make them sometimes an even bigger threat than the Hussar can be. It all depends on the situation and how far you're willing to invest in them. So, what's interesting is we see this settler on the front lines who put the blockhouse down, starting to build houses nearby. And they're also going to construct a secondary blockhouse. So Russia is really clamping their roots down into this mine here. They really want to keep this secured, it looks like. Yeah, we can definitely tell that. What they are going to ship in now is actually the 700 coin. That's an interesting choice, you know. 700 coin is usually the shipping you would send when you're looking to go Fortress Age. So I'm probably thinking a couple of... Well, here's another I see food here. So did they ship in their food shipping as well? That's another interesting point. Well, here's another thing. Advanced trading posts. So they're actually going for cheaper trading posts as well. So based on that and the fact that I see 2 trading posts already established by the Russians, I think what they're going to do here is they're basically going to try to amass as many shipments as possible to keep up with the Japanese Torii Gate. And thus they're going to get more of their crates out, more of the unit shipments out, which they have a pretty good number of, you know. Porchiks, Unstoppable Streletsy, Cossacks, later on the Genoplishniks, which is a siege cav, as well as their falconets, forts. So yeah, Russia can really take advantage of this deck if they can get those shipments out constantly with the trade route. Now the thing they do have to deal with though is obviously Japan fighting back with their Ashigarus, which they're going to be able to deploy pretty easily through the Torii Gate, providing them plenty of shipments. Russia, of course, can counter that early on using the Unstoppable Streletsys here. They can train some from the blockhouse in blocks of 10, then they can also use their 13 Unstoppable Streletsy shipment. That's a pretty good shipment, you know, I always include in my decks. It's a great way to deal with heavy infantry, which is you know, more or less one of the more common things you see in Age 2, really. You really don't see a lot of crossbowmen, you're more likely to deal muskets, so having some Streletzes in the back of your pocket is always a great idea. Yep, see right here, the Unstoppable Streletzes taking advantage of their slight range advantage as well as their anti-heavy infantry multipliers, giving them 16 damage against these Ashigarus. And just like I've conceived before, it does look like Russia's actually going for that fast fortress age, or rather a semi-fast fortress age. Semi being a fast fortress that is slightly delayed to produce defensive military, or to do a bit of early aggro before you actually go for it. And semi-FF, while not as powerful in the resultant, is a bit more flexitarian and does give you better security, better opportunities to do aggression or to defend yourself in case of danger. And Russia, being able to do the semi-FF, has managed to secure themselves a good number of Streletzes and recruits to keep themselves defended while the age up is occurring. And which age up did they go with exactly? The Adventurer. So Adventurer, if I recall, will grant additional Unstoppable Streletzes, so lots and lots of skirmish units. We'll see, though, how they manage to carry out this fight going forward. Now, this is a card you really need to pay attention to whenever Russia goes to Age 3, the Suvorov Reforms. What Suvorov Reforms does is it takes all these Unstoppable Streletzes and turns them into the recruits, the anti-cav. And what that can basically do for an unsuspecting player is, they're worried about, like, skirmishers, so they might, like, make a bunch of hussars, a bunch of Naginata riders, in the case of Japan, to deal with that. And then they're magically turned into musketeers, and they just go into bayonet mode and just poke them to death, basically. So, yeah, if you're dealing with Russia and you see the Suvorov Reforms in their deck, odds are they could very well turn those skirms into musketeers or recruits at any point. So you better be careful of that. If you see lots of Unstoppable Streletzes on the field, good chance they're going to be turned into those at some point, since, you know, the recruit is technically a more versatile unit. It does have a range attack, it's got decent siege, it's anti-cav, so unless you're dealing with pure heavy infantry, you really wouldn't need pure Unstoppable Streletsy spam most of the time. Right, you would rather want the recruit since it can be more flexible against things like cav, it can technically charge artillery, multitude of things. In fact, they're again Suvorov Reforms right now, and notice how they're also queuing up the Veteran Recruits upgrade and not the Veteran Unstoppable Streletzes upgrade, because they know they're going to be teching into heavy infantry rather than skirmish right now. Now, this is interesting. We see them... Okay, so now Japan knows about their movement now. This could go many ways. Japan could have obviously... Yeah, are they gonna... Oh, they're gonna go right for the throat of Russia now because they know that Russia is moving away in that direction. Russia is now vulnerable at home with really no defense at all. Even these recruits right here are going to be pushed onto the front lines with the aid of their ship Falconets providing anti-heavy infantry. Now, one thing Russia can do is they will send out a couple of Minutemen, or as they call them here, militiamen from the town center, to provide a bit of range support and maybe take out some of the Ashigarus before the TC goes down, ideally. Now, is there any settlers that are not near the town center? Any ones at all? Looks like they're all in the town center, so this could very... they got this group. 13. They're probably going to move up this way. Oh, wow, look at these recruits getting to work, though. I don't know if Japan going for the attack was really worth it, but honestly, the number of recruits I see here, I think Japan really didn't have much of a choice at all in the matter. Yeah. Because if they went back to go fight them, good chance these Falconets would have sprayed their Ashigarus down, and this big meat shield of recruits would have basically been their undoing. Here we see a bit of defensive Ashigarus, sniping at the cannons, not paying attention at all here, so, man, you really need to watch these things. Losing your artillery to a couple of lesser upgraded heavy infantry does not look good on you. Definitely want to avoid that. Alright, so those ones are down. Can the cannon take out the Shinobi no Monos as well? The Shinobis, these are basically just archers. What sets them a bit apart from the Yumi archers is the fact that they don't get multipliers. But they also don't get malices either, so... I've learned in Arena, especially from some pro Arena players, if you're going to be dealing with a Civ that might be producing a lot of cavalry, go with the Shinobis instead of the Yumi, because the Shinobi will actually output a lot more damage to the cavalry, just because of the fact that there's no malice working against them in that damage modifier, you know? It's just base damage to all the units. The only thing it might hurt is obviously the Pierce armor on the Hussar or Cossack, but that's about it. That's only like, what, 20% usually, 3%? Yeah, but the rest of that damage will go through to it. Unfortunately, that cannon's exposed. That's going to be sniped down. Now we're going to see if unupgraded Ashigaru Musketeers can counter recruits effectively. Looks like the Torii Gate will be a loss as well for Japan. We see the barracks also being pressured here. But this, well, statistically, even a veteran upgraded recruit technically has less stats than a unupgraded Ashigaru Musketeer. That is pretty interesting. And did they add any sort of like upgrades at all to these? I can't tell right now because they don't have a home city gather point to show what was already sent. So I don't know if they actually got the Ashigaru attacking to these. Good chance maybe they did, but I'm not familiar with the base stats, so we'll see. Yeah, see this right here? Ashigaru Musketeers doing the job here just because statistically they start off on better footing than the veteran upgraded Russian infantry. That's how trashy they are, by the way. You know, that's an important thing to keep in mind. You know, just because it's veteran upgraded doesn't mean it's going to outstat the Ashigaru, because it's meant to be a trash unit, really. A massable unit, but a weak unit. And now what we see is, now the Japanese have equal numbers to the Russians at this point. And the Russians also lost their town center. But here comes the other nasty thing that Russia can do in Age 3. The Oprishniks. Oprishniks, the siege cavalry. Also has melee multipliers against villagers too. So these villagers are in immediate danger. Yeah, yep, look at these yep. He's laughing because he knows what's going down right now. He knows exactly what this means. He's gonna scramble to get these villagers near the Ashigarus like immediately. And this is gonna definitely cut down some numbers on his villies. GG. GG for who? Who's dying exactly? Who's on death's door right now? Good question. Because another batch of Oprishniks is also coming out. So that could go many ways. Also a fort. Fort wagon. This fort could be basically put over here. It could be put anywhere, really. Wow, close one. Tell me about it. So does that mean Russia's going to concede? I don't think they have to concede, though. They just have to put the fort down. Oh yeah, just get that fort down and you're in good shape, buddy. Yep, just get that fort down, you're good to go. Do they have any vills, though? I'm trying to hockey. They don't have any villagers. Ah. No, I see food. I see food coming out, so they got villagers somewhere. Yep, these ones. Yeah, these vills are here. Yeah, they got these vills. And then when the fort goes down, they're going to do pretty well. They can use these Oprishniks to clean up the shrines, since they got a good siege number. Yeah, let's see how this fort changes things up a bit here. Oh yeah, I mean, I think Russia's on better footing right now, personally. Because they just have to get these vills into the fort. Yeah, yep, the fort's down. The fort's not going down easily to these unupgraded muskets at all. But yeah, I think Russia could potentially come back here. Honestly, yeah, because this fort's gonna take down this infantry, and then But that means they're gonna... Oh, wait a second. How's this TC doing? They're gonna have siege at TC. 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 Yeah, they could do that too. That's fine. Yeah, I don't know now. Like, I think Japan just has way too many villagers left over at this point. Yeah, I don't know. Nope. Yamabushi taking them out. These are pikemen, basically. And by the way, the fact that we see Yamabushi and Shinobi no Monos means that Japan actually went with the isolationist option from the consulate. You know, because these are Japanese isolation units. Basically, instead of allying with the foreign power, you basically ally with yourself. And the bonus of the Japanese isolation is your units gain more damage. So that's why these Ashigarus did so well against the recruits. Is this consulate option here was actually granting more damage to the Ashigarus, allowing them to dish out more to the lower damage out to those lower HP recruits, pretty much. Yeah. Now it's looking real dicey to be Russia at this point, because now you don't have a lot of villagers to work with. What are they doing? Building another town? Oh yeah, because they just sieged their towns. I was like, why aren't you killing up any villagers? No, they just destroyed that. So, yeah, that problem is solved right away. Well, we'll see here. Yeah, I think Japan's about ready to finish them off at this point. How much export do they got? Yeah, enough to get little groups of Yamabushi across the finish line there. Them being like a pikeman, they do get a lot of siege. Yeah, like 40 siege. Not to be messed with. Not to be messed with at all. Now they can actually ship the coin in as well. With a good number of shrines still on the map. Oh yeah, this is looking pretty much the end of Russia at this point. Wow, that was a really nasty exchange, because I noticed when, you know, Aaliyah sent me this recording, basically told me, you know, this is going to be a big trade-off, and now we understand what the trade-off is. You know, Russia went to trade off their base for their base to the Japanese, and in the end, Japan, because of their quick movement around into the swamps here, into the back of the green area here, they were able to be the dominant force. Right, so they were able to come on top, it looks like. Yeah, that's the way it seems. Do they have any more shipments they could really send? Nothing useful, you know. Like refrigeration. Yeah, that doesn't help when you have 5 villagers. That's like nothing. Ship a couple of portchicks. Yeah, nothing. Your Streletzis, your unstoppable Streletzis are not unstoppable now, because they don't even have veteran upgrades. They don't have counter-infantry rifling, so they're just plain old H2 unstoppable Streletzis, which is not that unstoppable at all, frankly. So yeah, I think you're basically out of luck at this point. It was a great attempt, though, and I'm wondering what would have happened if Russia like stayed back and dealt with the Japanese in their base. I think Russia probably would have won this, because they would have had their falconets there to deal with that army. And maybe they could have had a bigger mass of recruits still on the loose, and then they could have shipped the Prushniks in, and yeah, that would have done it. You know, I'm not sure if this trade-off was a great idea for Russia. They probably should have just turned back to deal with it. You know? Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah, just try to siege down that trading post. It's funny, because those are the trading posts that Russia had the initial part of the game, and Japan was able to sneak in and grab those from them through their constant raising and burning of things. And now Japan is going to age 3 with what wonder? I wonder what their wonder is going to be. So that wonder will be the Toshogu Shrine. The Toshogu Shrine is basically a shrine that's like a big giant shrine, which means it not only acts like a giant shrine that can house even more animals than a standard shrine, it also boosts the trickle rate of all the individual shrines here even more, making it a really nice building to have access to, you know. It's really an economic wonder. In a lot of like booming starts, you might see the Toshogu Shrine sent even before the Torii Gate, just to get that economic bonus going. And normally to do that, somebody might ally with the Portuguese in Age 1, just to make the wonders cheaper, because believe it or not, wonders are indeed buildings, so in effect your age-ups actually become cheaper because it's a building and it becomes cheapened by the consulate. So yeah, neat little trick. But post-game, let's check it out, see how these players did. Double resources with Japan. This is why Japan is really a turtle and boom civ. They, in the time that they had in their base untouched, they were able to boom up really well. They were able to make moves around the map and continue to boom themselves up pretty well with shrines, trading posts, really good stuff. And then when it came to military, in the end, Russia might have had the initial killing and raising spree, but Japan beat through pure stats of the Ashigaru and HP, as well as the nice little boost from Japanese isolationism, were able to beat the recruits back gun for gun, basically, you know. The Ashigaru held their ground really well and cemented themselves again as a very good turtling civ. I hope you enjoyed that little trade-off game. Hopefully we see a lot of other weird little strategies like that coming out. See you in the next Casa game I do. Signing off now.